So I'm going to lead you through Module 4 tonight, and I do apologize for not being able to be at the virtual session tonight, but Module 4 is pretty jam-packed as I take a look at it, and it's a lot of things that are in here could honestly probably be entire courses in their own. So again, keep in mind just here to give you an overview of some things. So this one might be overwhelming a little bit for you just because there's some pretty major topics, but remember, we're starting small. This is just to give you an overview, and then these are things as you get more comfortable with your blended environment that you can learn a little more about. And I would strongly recommend using Twitter to learn more about things like project-based learning or depth of knowledge, things that we're going to go into. So like usual, there's always this introduction, gives you kind of the objectives, the things you're going to need to know for the section. The meeting schedule, obviously we're meeting tonight, so not a big deal there. The first thing we're going to get into is something that I know as a teacher I did not do well with. I think teachers, we tend to just kind of use things without necessarily giving sources, and we're just not used to that. So this is a pretty good one, I think, for teachers to take a look at, just to kind of get an idea of Creative Commons and ways to make sure that you are using everything appropriately. So they're going to then ask you to take a look at some of these different things: plagiarism, cheating, fabrication, how to do that when kids do that in your classroom. Not only you, but when your kids turn in something that's plagiarized, how you're going to deal with it. And they ask you a few questions there to answer about, in this section right here, about your own school's policy. Then they're going to ask you to think about, and this is a discussion board, so again, you're responding to a couple other people's as well as your own post, but how you can model that for your kids. I mean, if you're putting pictures, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, pictures in your PowerPoint that aren't yours, are you citing sources? Are kids seeing you do that? So a little bit on academic integrity. And then we get to this big, giant thing, project-based learning. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's obviously something that's out there. It's a pretty big buzzword in education right now. And this module is going to lead you through what is project-based learning, and give you kind of an overview of what it is. And then you're kind of going to be asked, how can you incorporate some aspects of project-based learning into your blended environment? Don't feel like you have to, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go entirely project-based, because, I mean, kids still need some of that procedural knowledge. So, this is just asking, how can you take some of the things you've learned about and put them in there? And again, don't forget to respond to other people's discussion board. Get that conversation, keep that conversation going. You guys have been doing a great job of it. Okay, so if project-based learning and academic integrity weren't enough, we're going to get into the higher order thinking. So a lot of you are probably familiar with this and thinking about the Common Core. And the big thing in the Common Core is this depth of knowledge and higher order thinking. And how do we get kids beyond just, memorizing a formula or memorizing a date in U.S. history? How do we get them to really think about it? So these two, the Bloom's digital taxonomy and the Webb's depth of knowledge, are modules to take you through there. And then there's two discussion boards that are going to ask you to think about how you can increase your Bloom's level and how you can increase your depth of knowledge in class. Because honestly, when you have a blended classroom, you're going to have more time for that within your classroom. So it's going to be nice, it's going to be a little easier, I think, to get kids thinking about that, because you're not going to necessarily be the one up talking in front of the class anymore. And then there's a glossary assignment. And what we're looking for there is for you to come up with a question that is specific to your discipline that you could use to really push that Bloom's level. And it could be something that goes with a project-based learning. What's a question that you could ask your kids that really pushes them to a higher order thinking? And then you are required to respond to 3 people using a web tool that could help them. So if someone posts, I want to ask this math question, you might say, hey, today's Meet might be a really great tool for you to use to have your kids respond. So just keep an eye on the directions there. And again, don't worry too much about the dates, just kind of help you keep on track here. So then this next part, the Ready, Set, Go, is actually going to be really easy for most of you guys. This first one asks you to build your environment. So it's asking you to do something. For most of you, it's on Blackboard or Google Classroom. What is your introduction going to be? So are you going to have an introductory discussion board? And actually, as I read through a lot of your discussions, most of you have already done this, so just take a screenshot with something you've already done. We're not asking you to build something new if you've already introduced your kids, or if you've created an introductory video for your kids. What did you do to kind of start the year off? So again, don't feel like you need to create something new there. Tell us kind of what you did in your learning environment that introduced your kids to blended learning. And then, as you know, the tracking form, please do use the document that is provided, so we can kind of keep a running tally of how these are going for you. And again, you'll have 2 weeks to do this, so you should be kind of getting a lot of those questions answered on the tracking document. And if you have any questions, as you're going, or roadblocks or celebrations, please do let us know. And then nothing unusual down here. We have the integrating your blended course reflection, the usual thoughtful reflection on what you learned, and then the feedback, just kind of telling us what you thought of this module. So that gives you a little bit of what we're going to do in here. I forgot one quick thing here on the building your environment. You can just give us a screenshot. I know some of you, it's really hard to open up Blackboard to people, to non-students. So just give us a screenshot or send us a link to the video you made. You don't need to do anything crazy to get us into Blackboard. We don't need to do that. So hopefully that helps give you an idea of Module 4. And again, you're going to have 2 weeks on this, just like you did with Module 3. So do take your time. I will tell you there are a ton of resources out there on project-based learning. So don't hesitate. I think probably hashtag PBL on Twitter will give you a plethora of resources that are out there. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully you have a good virtual session, and I'll be in the class, just the usual. So if you have any questions, please let me know.